Alright, this is a first for my channel. We're going to be doing an unboxing, and if I've got all the stuff for it, I might possibly do a deck assembly as well, the way that I do it. So, yeah. Big shout out to Sticky Art Fingerboards because he sent this package to me. Sort of his way of thanking me for all of the support for his channel. And, I mean, that support has really gone both ways. So, I can't possibly say thank you enough, Sticky. In our back and forth via email, I even pointed out to him, hey man, you don't owe me anything. I'd be grateful for anything you want to send, but you don't have to send me anything. But here's what my preferences would be out of the options he listed. But regardless, I will be thankful no matter what's in here. So, now this right here is my multi-tool. It's a Leatherman Fuse. Pretty old tool, really a old multi-tool, but it has been hella reliable. In fact, I bought it because at the time I was in the military and I'd gotten orders to go through Ranger School, which is really more about leadership under high amounts of pressure. Let's not get this confused. I want to clarify with that, I'm not at all claiming to have been a Ranger. I was never in a Ranger regiment. I was in the Air Force, not the Army. But Ranger School, it's a leadership school. Anyway, among the packing list, they said, hey, you're going to need a multi-tool, but they didn't specify what type or anything like that. So I bought this one, and it got me through Ranger School. And let me tell you, it's not only done that, it's been on all 7 of my deployments and got me through a lot of stuff. So a little bit of story there for this thing. So I'm going to use that. Not that I don't have other tools that I could use, but I figure, hey, Sticky sent me something special. I'm going to use something special to me to open it. So yeah. Let's quite literally get into this. Let's see. I just find it funny that they have this little section back here. You can so easily just slip something through and then, whoop, as long as the knife's sharp enough, which it clearly is. Jesus. Then we get to the bubble wrap section. That's a little tougher, but not much. That should do it. All right. Sweet. Let's see. First thing I see right here, we've got a awesome little deck holder. That's basically what these are for. The idea is that you slip one of the hanger axles, the trucks, through there with the wheels on one side and the rest of the deck on the other, and this will hold your deck for you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. Oh, look at that. That is friggin' sick. Look at that tag. Dude. That is awesome. So we got Some stickers. Hell yeah, stickers are always welcome here. In fact, my girlfriend and I, we're in the process of figuring out what we're going to put all our different stickers on. She's only got like 2 obstacles to her name right now. She's got, and they're both Black River actually. She's got a Black River parking block, and she's got a Black River spine dose, I think is what it's called. It's not quite as long as my playground is, but it's basically, it's got a 2 half pipes, but they're in the middle separating them. It's the spine, and then on both ends of the half pipe there are extensions. I've used it in like maybe a couple of my videos at most. Only ever with her permission because it's her ramp. But she doesn't seem to mind in general. We got some OBFB stickers right here, a sticky sticker. We got, oh man, those are so freaking cool. Definitely a cool set right there. I like that. We got the Yeti on the skateboard. My girlfriend's gonna love that, I'm sure. And so do I, honestly, but she's gonna really, like, she's a big fan of the Yeti. Definitely, I like the teak stickers. There's another teak one. I love the blood red drippy. I love that. I'm really into like the dark sort of themed things. The meow thing. I don't know. I know that that's a brand, but I haven't tried any of their stuff. But I bet my girlfriend will probably love the little cat thing. You know, she's a huge fan of whatever is cute. So, and then there's the P-Rep fingerboards. Yeah, man, they've been around a long, long time. And we've got, an actual graphic protector that can go on the graphic side. And then we got a sheet of foam grip tape. The only thing I really use foam grip tape for, though, is to keep my obstacles from sliding around. Other than that, frankly, I don't use foam tape, but it is still greatly appreciated because, like I said, you know, it's still useful. You know, I can keep obstacles from sliding around. But yeah, all right. I love that the graphic protector clear wrap has been included there. That is freaking awesome. And then last but certainly not least, we got the Obsius deck, and I love how Obsius packages their stuff like that. You know, you got this slide top, nice and clean. Oh, sick! It's exactly what I told him my preference was too. The pistachio one. In fact, I even ordered some pistachio wheels from Joy Cult. And not only that, but some Jindies right here. So, already got trucks for this thing. Hell yeah, dude. Oh, wow, that is beautiful. Dude, the Sticky X OBFB tag and yeah, I love that. That top graphic layer is sick. Good thing I've got some teak translucent tape to go on it, because that's what's going to go over that. I ain't covering any of that graphic up. Man, that is... wow. Dude, this is an awesome deck. The only thing that I don't have for it that I wish I did would be nose and tail guards that actually kind of match the color here, the pistachio color, and some board rails that match it in color. But I bet I can probably go to Walmart and find some fingernail polish that'll work, some enamel fingernail polish to be specific. And I'm sure I've got some board rails and nose and tail guards that I could just paint to look that, to match it. But in the meantime, dude, let me see here. See if I can't find the, oh, yep, there they are, right here. My pistachio wheels to go with it from Joy Cult. This is my first set of wheels from Joy Cult, by the way. I've never had a set of Joy Cult wheels before. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. To me, anyway. To each their own. Alright. I'm going to want... Oh, goodness. I think this brighter set is a little closer. Yeah, there we go. There's some accents in there that match it. So that means that'll be the pivot cups. Didn't mean to dump them all out, but at least I didn't lose any in the process. Wow. All right. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Okay, what else have we got? Anything else I'm gonna really need here? Definitely gonna need a tool. Certainly going to require washers. Oh, come on. There we go. Washers. Gonna need the extended screws. Well, in the meantime, in terms of rails, these black ones are what I have. These, yep, I have two risers that are also black. So those will be used for now. Doesn't match, but that's okay. And I've got a pair of nose and tail guards in gray that I can, like I said, later on just paint. I can paint these to match in color later on. Don't have the paint with me yet, so. Oh man. magnet out just in case. In case anybody's wondering, that is a hard drive magnet from an internal hard drive from a computer, like a laptop computer. You're probably wondering, what in the world does Hellhound use that for? Well, you get the idea. Wow, that was cool. Anyway, I love physics. Anyway, so yeah, let's get this bad boy put together. Alright. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is actually start with the grip tape. There we go. Here's something I usually do. When it comes to these things, what I normally do is I try to line up, which I apparently did quite perfectly here on the first try. I try to line up somewhere in the middle of the deck a section where the edge of the grip tape is going to be aligned with the deck. Now that's not going to be like perfectly aligned no matter what, because the way that Obseus decks are shaped, and that's not a bad thing, that's just an observation. Then from what I do there, from there what I do rather is I push down in the middle. I kind of roll something. I find something that's going to apply pressure and do this. And the reason I do this is because I don't want a bunch of like bubbling or anything like that. I want this entire top layer graphic to be visible through the translucent grip tape. So I'm very careful to push that out. You see how I'm doing that? Starting in the middle and then pushing outward. And I usually use something like this to get into those pockets because this is a bit more perfectly round compared to, like, say, my fingers. And then I come back over and get any remainder out with the fingers. Alright, and actually, wow, look at that. So that's that much less cleanup that I'll have to do later on. Man, that's coming along great. The next thing that I do is I usually grab the good old kniffy. I come at an angle and we'll shaves off. This is not going to be perfect on the first pass through. It virtually never is. And that's okay. You can't rush perfection. I am following the deck with the edge of the blade here as best I can without cutting into the deck itself. It's really not that hard to do. It's just, it takes time, and that's okay. I do actually come back through the other direction as well. Perfect. Clean it up though. There we go. Okay. And then I poke these through. got our grip tape dealt with. Alright. Now we're going to do the graphic protector side of it. So a lot of people have been getting these from Obseus because Obseus actually includes this, and a lot of people don't have any idea what this actually is. Some people, I've seen people put it on the grip tape layer side of the deck, and then they're like, oh my god, this grip tape sucks, and it's like, it's not grip tape. If you actually check his packing list, I bet you'll find in the invoice that it says that that's a graphic protector, because that's exactly what this is. That's actually what that's for. It's meant to go over the graphic to preserve it. So that way you can shred this thing to your heart's content and not have to worry about that graphic coming off. Because it is a fairly realistic, I'll just put it that way, fairly realistic wear when it comes to these. So from here we do the same thing. You want to either use a real good sharp set of scissors or a knife. I'm going to prefer the knife. Does it take longer? Yes, but switch to the old scissors here. Next, we're going to come back through again with the screwdriver. We're going to poke these through. But this time I'm going to poke through on both sides. Okay, so now the next thing I usually do is look for some more translucent teak tape. No, that's all from in there pretty much. Cool. Single? No, it's not. It's triple. Teak sticker can go in there. Actually, each of these can go in there. Well, if I can get them to fit in there, then I can go in there. Yeah, there we go. That works. Oh, look at that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is put the trucks on. Well, the riser pads actually. The riser pads and then the trucks. Kind of both somewhat at the same time. You'll see. And you'll also see that this is why I use those, like, not quite kingpin long, but those fairly longer screws that come with the riser pads. Yeah, that's why those are the screws that I tend to use. do it is I push that thing right on through first, and then I push the next one through as well. Sort of cross from each other. Then I take the riser pad and I try to get that aligned with the screws and screw them in. Oh. Okay. Damn it. Oh, there it is. There it goes. And the trick to that is to not necessarily screw either one all the way down per se. Then you come back with the truck. I'm screwing these in just a little bit at a time. To make sure that the screw does come through the other side. Actually, the black is a pretty nice match. Oh, would you look at that? Well, you know, because the black outlines it. That's a nice match. I didn't figure that it would be, but it is. So anyway, you can see here how I'm doing that. Now you'll notice I haven't yet removed those bushings. And here's the thing. I am going to, because it's nothing against Joy Cult or Independent. It's just, when it comes to fingerboards, I already have my preference. And I have already tried out the natural, you know, the stock layout with that. And it's not really my preference. Now, when it comes to the the pivot cups, I am going to replace the stock ones with the Teak Tuning custom here. But my actual preference would be, find a deck that's got them. My actual preference would be the, even with the Jindies, as you can see here on my main street build right now, those are Obsius pivot cups that are on there. With Teak Tuning bushings and washers. You can see I've got the washers right here. So I am going to be replacing the bushings with Teak Tuning bushings and adding a couple of washers to it, because this is how I prefer my decks set up. And you'll also notice translucent teak grip tape. That's why I pulled that out, because that's going to go over the nose and tail. And then will be these nose and tail guards. So and then lastly, well, not last, sorry. Then after that's going to be the wheels, and then last but certainly not least will be the board rails. And there's a reason that I do it in that order. The main thing is the alignment of the wheels. That's what I base the placement of the board rails on. And the other thing is, you might notice I have my my Gorilla Super Glue Gel XL here. This is what I use. Rather than screwing these in, I Gorilla Glue them in place. Same thing with these. I don't actually screw these in. That way, later on, should I decide I want to swap out what's on this deck, I can do it. Especially with this protective covering on it, because that's what's got these on it. You know, okay, we'll just take this off. Apply just a little bit of heat, and not enough to warp the board. And you can actually get that stuff off. Oops. Anyway. I'm going to continue on with these. Now, another thing you may notice that I did was I actually backed the screw out a little bit before trying to screw it in. Not that it would actually come out per se, because I was still pressing forward, pressing inward on it. And then you hear that audible click. What was going on is this is actually how I avoid stripping the base plates. And I've only ever in my lifetime of fingerboarding, which, by the way, in case you don't know this already about me, I've been fingerboarding since 1998, a few months before tech decks were released. Okay, I've been skateboarding since 1988, fingerboarding since 1998, and here we are in 2026. So it doesn't take too much math to realize I've been doing this for a while. I'm what many might call an OG. Not to toot my own horn, but the point here is this. Why do I do the whole back it out until it clicks thing? To avoid stripping it. And in all of that time, I have only ever stripped base plates on 2 sets of trucks, and they were both Tech Deck trucks. That's not me hating on Tech Deck. Tech Deck had a different design of their trucks back in the day compared to what they have now. And you add this method of doing this to it, no wonder I haven't, stripped a base plate in decades. You can see why that hasn't happened. It's because I know what the hell I'm doing. Now, I'm a bit older, and that doesn't mean that doing this doesn't actually hurt a little bit. That's why I keep taking these little short breaks on this. But again, I did say earlier, hey, you can't rush perfection. You gotta take your time and do it right. And the other thing I would like to add to this is, hey, if you're a new fingerboarder, don't let this discourage you. And there's also nothing wrong with it. If you want to stick with a Tech Deck instead of any other brand of fingerboard, because let's be real, even Tech Decks are fingerboards. I think I've put enough videos out that pretty well prove that. Because there's stuff I can do on either one of these or a Tech Deck, and it makes no difference. Well, I can't say it makes no difference. That's not quite accurate. It's easier to do on what many might call a pro board, especially if you've modified it such as I'm doing now to meet my own preferences, Once you've done all of that, okay, it's a whole totally different beast at that point, Alright. Now, like I said, next we're going to get the lock nuts off. And here is where the magnet comes in. This is actually my secret to doing this without losing lock nuts, by the way. See that? Bam. Where you going? Nowhere. Alright. And we've got this little big pivot cup. Bust out the scissors again. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we're going to take the first one of these, slip it right on there. And now we're going to pull out again some bushings. Alright, let me see here. Deep in here I've got some green looking bushings that I think will go fantastic with this. The thing is, getting to each of them is going to suck, because then I'm going to have to clean up the rest of them. Well, there's 3 of them. And there's 4. Alright. Mess cleanup has been minimized. Nice. Fuck. And I just dropped some. Just lost a few. That sucks. They are now on my kitchen floor. Beautiful. Somewhere. At least they're silicone. Okay. Well, it worked out a lot easier than I thought it would. And here I thought they might be lost forever. Nope. Those on there. Our pivot cup, we feed the pivot cup in first, and then hanger through the kingpin. Come on. Oh, I see the issue. Nope. That did not fix it. That looks like it did, though. I take one of these. Come on now. Don't do that to me. And one of these. Come on. the lock nut, put back in place. This is what turns out to usually prove to be a little bit tricky. To get all of that lined up. To where the parts don't go flying everywhere. But once you do, look at that. You get the first few threads on there. You get it on there, nice. Keep threading down. And see now, the lock nut isn't going to get in the way during grinds either. That's the beautiful thing about doing it this way. That pivot cup, what it does is that pivot cup actually pushes up on the hanger axle here. So now the lock nut is either even with or lower than the hanger axle is. So now it sits lower and doesn't get in the way during grinds. It's something that I've heard other people complain about, but this is my fix to it. Is all in the tuning. You know, this is why it's why Teak named their company Teak Tuning. It's kind of what I think their major focus was on, and frankly, I'm here for it. To be honest, I love it. I mean, I know exactly what I like. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by Teak Tuning. Nope, I have no sponsor. Not currently, anyway. There are a few companies that I'm in talks with, but not any that have made a solid commitment and said, yeah, let's do this, you know? And here's the thing, I'm not looking to necessarily get paid right off the bat. I eventually want to get paid for fingerboarding, but for now, I'm looking for what many might call a flow team sponsor. That's kind of what I'm in the market for right now. And that doesn't mean that, oh, I just want product for free. No, I'm willing to actually put in work for it. And if you've seen the content and amount of it I already been putting out, you know, I upload almost every day. And that's without a sponsor. What do you think's going to happen if I get a sponsor? I might upload more than once a day. Who knows? It largely depends on what the contract says or what the agreement says. However you want me to word that. Largely, you know, dependent on whether or not there's a contract to be signed or an agreement or something like that. I know that some companies, when they do these kinds of things, ask for an NDA because they might reveal certain products to you that aren't ready for mass production yet, but they're working on it, and they may want you to help, you know, truly test and review it first. That's the sort of thing I'd be up for. The main thing I want, though, is there are some companies that I already know I like their product. GU Ltd is that's my favorite when it comes to decks. Obsius is actually they're on up there too. I love me some Obsius, especially Obsius pivot cups because they're so much easier to work with than this. Those are my favorite. Out of all the pivot cups I've ever used, Obsius has been my favorite. And they actually do fit in the Gendies. In case anybody's wondering. They fit Tech Decks, they fit Gendies. That was close. They even fit Dynamics. So, but I don't know. Well, let's see, what else do they fit? I think they also fit Hex Trucks, if I'm not mistaken. I know they don't necessarily fit BRTs. Wish they did, but that's okay. And I love me some BRTs as well, by the way. But my favorite trucks has become the Gendies. However, I will say, for me, tied in second place on that really is, really are Black River trucks, particularly 3.0 wides in 34 millimeter specifically. Tied with that as well as are going to be the Obsius and the Dynamics, particularly the Dynamics that have the inverted kingpins. I actually like those. Where I know a lot of other people are opposite on that, but you know, to each their own, you know. To each their own. There we go. Well, crap. Again, why I keep that that magnet handy right there. I didn't lose any pieces. Whew. May have been close, but I didn't lose them. Damn it. And this is the one thing that I will say makes fingerboarding as a hobby to be, I might say, a bit on the tedious side, is the hard work that gets put into testing out different things, finding out just what works for you, and assembling your fingerboards just how you want, especially once you finally did figure out, oh, this is what I like. Oh, this is how I like it. You know. Oh, come on. That was right there. Damn it. Really, dude? Ah! It was right there. This is a really tedious part of this. But hey, you know, once it's done, once everything is in place, then it's not so bad. few different methods to try before. Yeah, there we go. Got it. Yeah, I just had to switch up how I was doing it, I guess. A little more. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and get the wheels put on. In case anybody is wondering why in the world is it that the new Jindies are immediately my favorite, they've only been out so long, how can I possibly have tested them? Well, since I've got mine, I have put them through quite the ringer of testing, and I will openly admit, yes, I have a bias in favor of the Jindies. Joy Cult independent collaboration there. And while I did still give it a fair test and it passed it, it did also, I'm openly admitting to a bias anyway because I'm honest about it, and because back when I used to be a sponsored professional skateboarder, as in I got paid to skate by several companies, several meaning 7 or more, by the way, at the same time, by the way. Some of this went on while I was in the military with my squadron commander agreeing and giving approval on it. But yeah, and that was a huge thing for me, especially because I started out active duty, and then I went to what's called the Ready Reserves, or often called active reserves, meaning I was a reservist, the same kind of guy that goes on the so many weekends and all of that, and then 2 weeks, a year, and this, that, and the other. Yeah, except that I was almost constantly on active duty orders for deployments or pre-deployment training. Almost constantly. Just often enough where I wasn't, to where when I was around, you might not have even known I was in the military. I mean, yeah, sure, I stayed physically fit compared to now. Now I'm definitely not so physically fit anymore, and that is largely due to combat injuries that do indeed prevent me from working out 6 days a week, maybe even 7. But yeah, so there's that. All right, those Jindies are on there now. Ooh, just how I like it, nice and tight. Not so tight that they can't move, not so tight that I can't turn, but just right for me. Let's put these bushings away. Let's put away the remainder of our pivot cup material. And there's another container in here somewhere where I actually put those kinds of pivot cups. Here it is. It's nice to keep these as a backup. So now what we're going to do is take this and we're going to apply part of it. And you see how I'm doing this? I'm using the truck as a guide. And pressing out. So that way oh goodness, that is really frickin' on there. There it goes. Alright, let me try this again. And like I said, try to use something to... There we go. There we go. Okay. Sweet. That one is on there. Let's try this end again. Right. Cool. Cool. Okay, next what we gotta do is get that Gorilla Glue. Damn. Okay. A few drops. There. A few drops there. Okay. And what's going to happen now is we're going to grab these and place them on. Same over here. And what I'm trying to do here is get as close to a lineup as I can for the nose and tail guards to be right in line with the tip of the board, as well as being left to right about centered on the trucks. And then those are going to take about a minute to set, and while those are doing so, I take a little bit here, and what I'm looking for is this line to go in between, like about halfway between wheel and axle. That's what I'm trying, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. I'm going to take 1, 2, just to start with, a couple of little dabs. And center them just like I said. If I can get it to do it without gluing it to me. Small dab there. Small dab there. Again, try not to glue it to yourself, but you want it to be about halfway between the wheel and the hanger axle. All right, and now the next step, I'm not going to actually be in this video with it, but that's because I don't have the fingernail polish yet for it. But I'm going to look for a greenish, kind of pistachio-ish fingernail polish that'll go on the nose and tail guards and the board rails.
And I may just keep them black. I don't know. I just hadn't really quite made up my mind on that. And then, and I do have black fingernail polish, but I got to get my mind made up on it first. But I'm kind of thinking the black is actually looking pretty good. And I do have black fingernail polish here. It's my favorite color, so of course I would have it here. Yeah, and it's fewer steps. But I also have clear fingernail polish that I tend to put over these things. So, you know, a layer or two of black and then a layer or two of clear. That's kind of how I tend to do it. Let's see what the hell's going on with this. Okay, foam grip tape. There we go. So yeah, that's gonna sit and dry for a few. Yeah, so there you go. All right, this is the longest